Hi everybody and welcome back to our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia and in this week's live lesson, we're going to practice reading and understanding a story together. In this week's live lesson, we're going to look at a short story. We're going to break down the vocabulary words that are new in the story, and then we're going to look at answering some questions about the story. So today, you're going to learn, one, how to read even when there are words that you don't understand in the story, how to check the words that you are just finding for the first time, and how to go back, read again, and check your understanding. So I hope this is a very helpful lesson for everybody that is joining today. So as you join, please make sure to hit the like button and of course share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. That would be super great. So today we're going to focus on reading, but I want to also remind you that the team has a 45% off sale, yay, at EnglishClass101.com. So if you want to study with us, if you want more of my lessons, if you want study tools, if you want your own teacher, if you want vocabulary study tools like spaced repetition flashcards, you can find all of these tools and more at EnglishClass101.com. So check the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube and above the video if you're watching on Facebook to find this page. If you want to get the 45% off discount, you can do that now. It's a great chance to start learning with us at the beginning of the year. Okay, great. So I will come to check the chat and then we'll get into today's story. It's called The Fox and the Grapes 2.0. Maybe you've seen, I think, Daphne talk about this topic before. We're going to talk about a story called Earned Access. Okay, let me say hello really quickly. Hello, GF John Erickson. What's up from the Philippines? Hello, Patrick. Hello, Erickson again. Welcome, everybody. Essa, hello. Minnow, hi on YouTube. Facebook, I don't see comments yet. Say hello, Facebook. What's up? Hey, Rocky on YouTube. Let's go. We have a lot today. So let's go through and we'll read the story first. We'll read the story one time. We will next look at new vocabulary words. We'll check the story again with focus on the new vocabulary words. And at the end of the lesson, we will have a quiz. So you know the flow for today. Let's begin. So first, let's begin the story. I'll read out loud and then we'll look at the vocabulary. The fox observed a bunch of grapes hanging behind a tall fence. They appeared flawless, dark, ripe, and inviting, yet frustratingly out of reach. He leapt. He climbed. He failed repeatedly. Who needs them? He scoffed, turning his back. A quiet voice responded, if they truly meant nothing, you wouldn't still be watching them. It was Mira, resting by the path with a cup of tea. The fox remained silent, but her words lingered in his mind. That night, he devised a plan. He surveyed the land and analyzed the soil with care. Then he dug a tunnel, methodical, silent, and precise. Several days later, he stood beneath the grapes. He didn't eat them. He didn't disturb a single vine. Instead, he walked into the vineyard office. This is how I gained access, he said. And this is how I would make sure no one else could. The vineyard rewarded him. A basket of grapes, fresh, authentic. Okay, In time, he founded a security firm and invested in the vineyard itself. Okay, so before I come to this, so this is the story we're going to look at today. It's kind of like a fantasy story where a fox lives in the real world like this. But today we're going to look at the vocabulary words and I'm going to break down some of the grammar and the patterns, the sentence patterns we see in this story so that you can use these words and so that you can think about how the sentences put the story together. Yeah. So we're looking at all of it together and how you can use these in your own writing as well as understand them in your reading. but how you can use them yourself to tell stories effectively. Okay, so reminder, in case you missed it, the team has a 45% off discount. Woohoo! So I will remind you again later, but I want to get into the vocabulary. If you want to check this now, check the link below or above the video on YouTube or on Facebook. I'll come back to this in just a moment. Okay, so let's take a look at the vocabulary and the patterns we see in this story. So first, this was a key verb we saw in the story, observe, observe. In this case, we have it in past tense. So to observe, the category is like look. We can say he looked at the grapes. Yeah, someone looked across the street. When we observe something, it sounds like we're looking from far away and we're looking carefully, very closely at something. So for example, someone looking at a star using a telescope is someone who is observing a star. We can say this person is looking at a star, yes. When we say observe, it sounds like we're looking for a long time, like we're checking the status, checking the condition. So this was a key word at the beginning of the story. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next key word was flawless. Flawless. Let's break down this word. Flaw, I can't write there. Flaw means a problem or some kind of point of weakness, okay? And less means not. This is a suffix or an ending for a word. So something that has no weak point, something that has no problems is flawless. So this diamond, for example, is a perfect diamond. Flawless means there's no weak point. There's no point there's no scratch, there's no hole. Something that is flawless is just perfect, yeah? So a very high compliment for something. We saw this word at the beginning of the story, okay? Let's move to the next one. Inviting. Inviting. This is an adjective. So inviting, yes, it does end with this ing form, but this is used in the adjective position. For example, her house was very inviting. That means something that makes you feel invited inside, or you are invited to it, yeah? So in this case, the house, like there's a little heart here, so inside is yellow. It seems very warm. It seems like a happy place. We could say this house is inviting, yeah? Okay, let's move to the next one, which was frustratingly. Frustratingly. So frustrating, maybe you know the word frustrating, this part. This is just an adjective. Oh, this is so frustrating, okay? Frustratingly is the adverb. This is a word that modifies a verb, okay? So frustrating and frustratingly refer to something that it's difficult to solve. I can't solve this and I feel angry or I feel irritated. I'm tired of trying to solve a problem and I can't solve it. That describes frustrating. And then we can use frustratingly to talk about the whole situation or an action. Yeah? So frustrating and frustratingly are just different grammatical forms of the same word. Okay? Let's continue. The next word is scoff. Scoff. This is the past tense form of the verb to scoff. S-C-O-F-F. So to scoff means, like this person is doing this action, it's when you dismiss something. You get news or you get information and it seems not important. You go, that action? That's to scoff. To scoff. It's not important. I don't care. So we use to scoff to describe that, or past tense scoffed. Like after I gave her the news, she scoffed. It's not important. Or when the president heard the report, he scoffed. Excuse me. So that means something's not important or it's not key. Okay? All right, let's continue to the next word. Lingered. Lingered. Okay, so linger is the base here. We have a past tense verb, again, lingered. To linger means to stay in a place for a little longer than you need to. We can use this for a person, like this person lingered in the park. We can also use it for a feeling, like the smell of her perfume lingered in the air after she left the room. So it's something that stays behind, or it stays for a little bit longer than you need to. So you can have something linger in your mind. It stays for a little while. Or you can stay in a place for a little while. Or the smell of something can stay in a place for a while. Okay? All right. Let's continue. To devise. To devise means to create, like a plan. But we have the past tense form here. To devise, past tense D. So we're making a plan in this situation, okay? So to devise a plan means to create a plan, all right? We're gonna go to the next one. Let me grab a sip of water here too real quick. My throat's a bit dry. The next one is surveyed, surveyed. So to survey something means to check the situation of something. We have this in the past tense as well, okay? So to survey a scene means to check the conditions of the scene. This is a word that is usually used when we make plans, like construction plans, or when we need to make something that is about a physical area, to survey. Okay, so let's continue. The next word is methodical, methodical. Maybe you can see the root here is method, method. So this means the method in which you do something is very regular, is very regulated. So this is an adjective that means someone, usually someone, or a process that is very regulated, very strict. So someone who is methodical always follows the same pattern, yeah? He's a very methodical worker, for example. Or this is a very methodical process. Note the difference in pronunciation. We have method here as the root, method, and methodical for the adjective form. Okay. All right. Sorry guys, my throat's a bit dry today. Okay, authentic. Authentic is the next one. Authentic means something that is true or something that is genuine. So you see this word when you are shopping a lot, right? 100% authentic or 100% genuine leather, or this is an authentic cultural experience, right? Something that is 100% true or 100% as expected is something that is authentic, yeah? We saw this word in the story, okay? Let's go to the next one. The next one is a sentence pattern that we saw in the story. The pattern was subject, observed, object. Maybe you remember we talked about the word observed just a moment ago. We'll go back to that. Let's refresh our memory. Oops. So this one, observe. This one means to look closely at something, usually checking the status or checking the condition, yeah, to observe, okay? So let's look at how we can use this in a sentence pattern. Subject, observed, object. So as in this picture, we can say this person, or we can say he observed, and the object is the target. So in this case, the butterfly. He observed the butterfly, right? So this means he watched the butterfly, yeah? He carefully watched it, he checked the movements, and so on. Observed is different from looked at. So he looked at the butterfly means just one time, quickly. He looked over here. He looked at the butterfly. You could say he watched the butterfly, but observed, the key with observed is like this feeling of really closely checking that thing, okay? So you can watch something, like to watch a movie, right? You're focusing on the movie, but when you observe something, we watch it very closely, very carefully, checking it, okay? So a good verb to know. All right, so he observed the butterfly, all right? You can also use this with the location information. So we could say he observed the butterfly, for example, in the garden, or he observed the butterfly at the park. So these kinds of sentences can tell us where we did the observation, okay? Let's move to the next pattern. The next one is they appeared, adjective list, yet contrast phrase. Okay, so this is a pattern that was taken from the story. In this case, we have an adjective list. So that means that we need to choose probably 3 different adjectives to use in this sentence pattern. So when we're talking about an object and we want to describe them, we can do that here. In this case, our subject is they. In the story, we had grapes. So I can't remember exactly what the story said. We'll check together in just a moment. So they, being the grapes, maybe they appeared like huge, ripe, and heavy. Yet. So yet shows us that there is a difference between the first part of the sentence and the second part of the sentence. This conjunction, this joining phrase, introduces a change, introduces a contrast, okay? So, for example, they appeared, what did I say? They appeared huge, I think, huge, ripe, what did I say? Ripe and heavy? Heavy, thank you, Control Desk. Huge, ripe, and heavy. So they appeared huge, ripe, and heavy, yet, contrast phrase, they were out of reach, right? So here, we have many good and exciting points in the first part. They're huge, they're ripe and heavy, these grapes, but, or yet, for more formal sentences, they were out of reach. So we couldn't reach those grapes. We can use a sentence pattern like this to build up a lot of like positive or exciting information and then quickly change it and introduce something that's more negative or that introduces a problem. Okay? All right, let's continue to the next one. What's up, chat? Ayman, what's up? I like this lesson. It's amazing. Thanks. Cool. And Barkatullah wrote, I observed the pattern of flowers planted in the park. Okay, cool. Very nice ones. Very nice ones. Let's continue to the next pattern. The next pattern from the story was he plus past tense verb, he plus past tense verb, and then he failed and an adverb. Okay, so in this story, I believe the sentence was he leapt, he climbed, and he failed repeatedly. So this is a pattern, a sentence pattern you'll see in stories where stories will often have these 3-part structures. So we had he leapt, he climbed, and he failed repeatedly. So why does this sentence pattern sound nice to us? Okay, we have 3 past tense verbs here. Leapt, so to leap means to jump. A little more of an old-fashioned word than jump. Jump sounds like this, just one short motion. To leap sounds like to go across some kind of gap, yeah? To leap across something. He climbed is our second past tense verb, so we have an action, so leaping. We have another action, climbing, so this shows effort. He's working hard, also working hard. And then the third verb is, again, a past tense verb. It shows failed, failed. So we have some contrast, some different feelings in our 3 sentences. And we have he failed repeatedly. He failed repeatedly. This means that he did the failing more than one time. He tried these things more than one time, okay? So we can use a pattern like this to show repetition, like repetition of many actions in this way. Okay, let's continue to the next part. The next pattern is if, maybe you can recognize this if conditional, if condition, subject would result, all right? So this is a very kind of open pattern for today's lesson, but we can use a basic if conditional, and I think we saw one in the story. So let's look at an example like this from the picture. So if condition, subject would result. In this case, if it rained, subject would bloom. Or sorry, if it rained, subject would bloom. So we can say, if it rained, here, subject, in this case, the flower or the plant. If it rained, the flower would bloom. Okay? So a quick reminder on a conditional. If you want more practice with conditionals, I have many lessons on the first, second, third conditional, mixed conditionals, so please check those out. Today, we're just going to review this pattern for the story. Okay, I think we're getting close to the end. and then we'll continue. Yes, okay, our last one, and then we'll put it all together in the story and talk about how these words appear in the story. So the last pattern, instead, subject plus unexpected action. Okay, instead is used at the beginning of a sentence or at the beginning of a new clause to show that a different action to the expectation is going to happen, or the subject is going to do something different from the expectation. So for example, instead, he failed the test. Instead, he failed the test. So maybe we expect he will pass the test, right? For example, he worked super hard to study for the test, but instead, he failed the test. So this sounds like something that is unexpected. We'll see this in the story. Okay? All right. I don't see other questions, but I do see other things. Erickson wrote, a scientist observed his invention inside his laboratory. Very nice. Okay, good. So now that we have all of these different vocabulary words, let's put them together in the story. Let's review the story with the new words, and let's break down the grammar and the vocabulary inside the story. So let's look at it one more time. We have, the fox observed a bunch of grapes hanging behind a tall fence. So here's one of our keywords. The fox observed, right? Remember, observed means to look at carefully, to watch something. A bunch of grapes. This is the counter we use for this shape, many grapes together on the vine, on the plant. We say a bunch of grapes. This is a special counter for grapes. So a bunch of grapes hanging is like this motion for grapes, right? So they're not like attached to a fence, but they are just like this, kind of relaxed, hanging behind a tall fence, okay? They appeared flawless, dark, ripe, and inviting, yet frustratingly out of reach. We practiced this pattern just a moment ago. So they appeared flawless. So we can say they looked flawless. So appeared means looks or presents. We talked about this word, flawless. Maybe you remember this, the diamond, right? So they looked flawless, or they appeared flawless, means they did not seem to have any problems. They were perfect grapes. They were dark, ripe, and inviting. Ripe, we didn't cover today. Ripe means ready to eat. But for fruit and vegetables, we don't say that meat is ripe, really. So ready to eat. Yeah, that's a good point, Control Desk. If meat is ripe, that means it's bad. It means it smells bad. So something that is like a fruit or a vegetable that is ripe is good, okay? Patrick wrote, behind a tall fence, what does it mean? I think there's actually a picture. Tall fence. This is a fence, this picture. This is a fence, very, very high, okay? The grapes are behind that fence. Does that help you, Patrick? Okay, let's go back to this one. All right, dark, ripe, and inviting. This was one of our key words. Remember the warm house, inviting? So something that seems like we want to go inside, or something that attracts us, right? Something that is inviting. Yet, this was the word we use to show contrast. Frustratingly means that something doesn't work for us, that we have tried and tried and tried to fix this and it doesn't work, right? Frustratingly, out of reach. This was not a phrase in the vocabulary section, but imagine when you reach. To reach is this motion, trying to reach something. I can't reach. So when something is out of reach, it means it's too far. Like the pen is out of reach. I can't reach. So in this case, the grapes are frustratingly out of reach. It's so frustrating, this feeling. Okay, well, let's go to the next one then. Here we have the pattern of actions in past tense. He leapt, so past tense of the jumping across something, vocabulary word. He climbed, so again, past tense verb. And then he failed repeatedly. So we see this action happened multiple times. Okay? And then who needs them? He scoffed, turning his back. Maybe you remember this vocabulary word, to scoff. That's when we hear some information or we get some information and then we go, it's not important. I don't care. Yeah? So in this case, he says, who needs them? He failed to reach them. He failed to reach his goal. So he decided, it doesn't matter. It's not important. And then he scoffed, turning his back. So turning his back means he turned away from his goal. So if you are my goal and I'm tired of trying to reach you, I might go, I'm tired of this, and I leave, right? Bye. So we turn our back on something that we don't want to try to do anymore, okay? So a quiet voice responded. So responded is another way to say replied. If they truly meant nothing, you wouldn't still be watching them. If they truly meant nothing, you wouldn't still be watching them. So here we have that if conditional, okay? If they, so that means if the grapes, right? If the grapes truly, this means really, this is a formal way to say really. If the grapes really meant nothing, means if the grapes really weren't important, you wouldn't still be watching them, okay? So you would not be doing these actions now. In other words, you are still thinking about them and watching them. So that means the grapes are important to you, okay? So the next one, who said it? It was Mira, resting by the path with a cup of tea. Why is she there? No one knows, but she happened to see it, okay? So let's go. The next one, the fox remained silent. So remained silent. That means the fox did not say anything. So that means the fox was not making sound or talking. In this fantasy story, the fox can communicate, but the fox remained silent. That means he did not say anything, okay? But her words lingered in his mind. We looked at the word lingered. Lingered means to stay for a little longer, yeah? So to stay in a place for a little longer, or when the smell of something stays a little longer, okay? So her words lingered in his mind. In his mind means in his brain, or in his thoughts. He was thinking about her words for a long time after the conversation, okay? That night, he devised a plan. He devised a plan. We looked at this word, devised. So to devise, again, means to create something, like a plan. Like you think of something that's a little bit difficult to do. We create something like, we talked, I think, about like construction plans or creating a plan for something that's maybe a difficult, large situation to make a plan for. So to devise something, okay? And then he surveyed the land and analyzed the soil with care. So surveyed, we talked about this word, to survey. This was like the construction site, using the construction tools to check the scene, right? To survey something means to look at a place and to check all the conditions of the place and to learn about it. To observe, really, to observe the conditions of a place, okay? He surveyed the land, right? The land around the grapes, and analyzed. This was not a word in our vocabulary today, but to analyze something means to get all the information and then process it. So decide, what does the information mean? So we often see this in data analyzing or data analysis, right? Getting lots of data and analyzing the data and then making a decision, okay? So he surveyed the land and analyzed the soil. Soil means dirt. It means the brown stuff on the ground. That is dirt, okay? Soil is well, I think there are probably some differences between soil and dirt, but soil and dirt generally mean the same thing in daily conversation, okay? All right, so he did it with care. This means carefully, carefully. He did it with care, okay? On to the next step. Then he dug a tunnel, methodical, silent and precise. So he dug. This is the past tense of dig. This action, to dig. We use to dig to talk about an animal making a hole in the ground. And we can use to dig to talk about a person using a shovel, going like this to make a hole in the ground, to dig something. Okay? A tunnel, making a route under the fence. Okay? Here we see methodical. This was one of our key words. Method was the root, right? So he had a method and he followed the pattern. He followed his plan that he devised, yeah? So methodical, silent, and precise. Precise. This word means very accurate. So he was very accurate and very careful when he was digging the tunnel. All right, on to the next one. Several days later, he stood beneath the grapes. So this sentence is important. This tells us how long it took. Several days later. That means several days later or several days after the tunnel digging started. Okay? Several days later, he stood beneath the grapes. Also, several. This does not mean 7. It means a number of days. Exactly, we don't know how many. More than 3. More than 3 or 4, yeah? So several days later, he stood beneath. Beneath. Beneath is another way to say under. Both are okay. Beneath sounds a little more formal. Okay? Beneath the grapes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then he didn't eat them. He didn't disturb a single vine. To disturb means to change or touch something or move something, to disturb something, okay? To move it from its original position. He didn't disturb a single vine. So the vine means the part of the grape plant. He didn't disturb a single, not even one is what this means. He didn't disturb a single vine. Then, instead, he walked into the vineyard office. So remember, instead is used to show a change in expectation, right? We thought the fox wanted to eat the grapes, but instead he walked into the vineyard office. Maybe this is a new word. Vineyard, we have vine here, right? The vine is where the grapes grow. The yard is the place where the grapes are growing. So a vineyard, you can think about this as the wine, or maybe I should say, the wine grape field. Sorry guys, that's a mistake. Wine grape field is a different way. Don't say wine grape field, but this is what it means. A vine yard, but it's pronounced vineyard. He walked into the vineyard office, okay? Then he said, "This is how I gained access." So to gain access means this is how I got access, right? This is how I was able to go inside. This is how I was able to access your grapes. He told them, I got in. I didn't touch them, but I got in. And he said, this is how I would make sure no one else could. This part is important. No one else, no one other than me. So he says, I learned how to get in. I will explain to you how to fix your security so no new people can do the same thing I did, okay? This is how I would make sure no one else could in the future potential form here, okay? And then the vineyard rewarded him. So they gave him a reward, a basket of grapes, fresh, authentic, and rightfully earned. So we had this word, authentic, meaning 100% genuine. They were real, true, perfect grapes. And rightfully, so that means that he did the job correctly. He did everything right. He didn't steal them, he earned them, okay? In time, he founded a security firm. This means a business, a security business. He created a security business, okay? And invested in the vineyard itself, okay? So he put money into the vineyard as a business, okay? Interesting end to the story. Okay, I have to finish there. Oh my gosh. So this is how we can look at a story, and when we don't know the words in the story, how we can go to check what the words mean, and then look at how they are used in the story and read the story again. So I always tell you in these live streams, review, review, review. This is a short example of how you can review on your own with a very short story. This story was very short, right? But this is an example of how you can review on your own, choose a few vocabulary words in your story, check the meaning, come back again, and look at what the words mean in the story. So after this, I hope you found some new vocabulary words and some new sentence patterns that you can use, okay? Let's see. Erickson wrote, can we use linger and stay interchangeably, like a snake lingered outside my house, or a snake stayed outside my house? Grammatically, you can say the snake lingered, or the snake stayed outside my house. It's like when we linger, it sounds like it's almost mysterious. It's kind of like something special happened or something kind of strange happened, yeah? So we can use them grammatically, it's correct, but they have a slightly different feeling. Yeah, control this. Notes lingered has intention. I would say though, like something like when we use it for a smell, like her perfume lingered after she left the room, maybe there's not intention there, but it feels a little mysterious, yeah? So there's kind of a little mysterious element or kind of a thinking element to it. Yeah, good question. Okay, I have to finish there. So I'll be back next week. Don't forget, oh my gosh, quiz. I totally forgot this quiz. Let's quickly go through this. Why couldn't the fox reach the grapes at first? All right, I'll answer them quickly because we're out of time. The fox could not reach the grapes at first because they were behind a tall fence. The answer is B here, okay? Then, what made the fox change his way of thinking about the grapes? Was he tired? The grapes fell down? Mira made a comment, or the vineyard was closed? The answer here is C. Mira made a comment about his feelings. And then what did the fox do during the night? Tried jumping again, asked for help, he made and carried out a plan, or he gave up. So you might say he tried jumping again. Well, he tried that before, right? So after Mira's comment, he made and carried out a plan, all right? And then why did the fox go to the vineyard office instead of eating the grapes? He lost his appetite, he wanted permission, he wanted to explain the security weakness, or he was afraid of being caught. The answer here is C. He explained the problem in their security. And finally, how was the fox rewarded in the end? With money, with land ownership, a basket of grapes, or with a new job as a guard? The answer is C, with a basket of grapes. Okay, I have to finish there. I am very late now. Next week, I'll be back at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. If you don't know your local time, please Google it or set a notification on Facebook and YouTube so you get a pop-up when we do these lessons. Next week, we'll talk about winter foods you should try in the USA. If you want to learn a little bit more about popular things to eat during the cold time of year, please join me next week. So I have to finish up there for today. Thank you everybody for joining me for this week's lesson. And if you want to get the 45% off deal, you can find that from the link below the video on YouTube, above the video on Facebook. So check that out. All right, I have to go. I am late, but thank you very much for joining me as always this week. Have a great day, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I will see you again next time. Bye.